Oral history is a big part of FNMI traditions. So we are going to read a sort of short book. It's called Wenjack by Joseph Boyden. Suckerfish. Gimmick Wenden Inna, do you remember? I remember, me. My friends, the two brothers, call the pale teacher Fishbelly, or sometimes Suckerbelly. They don't say it to his face because he's strong, and he smells like what the color yellow or maybe brown smells like, and he has a room in the basement that scares the life from us. He calls me the slow one. Even though they took me away from my home 2 years ago when I was 9, I am still the first class, but Fishbelly says I get to go to a new school soon. I'm learning my English, me, but I won't lose my tongue. I pretend to be the slow one so I don't forget my words. When the Fishbellies with shining shoes and guns tied to their waists come to take me, Ninide says not to speak my words out loud, but only to whisper them when they couldn't hear. Daddy, Ninide, Mama, ni mama, my sisters, Nimiseyag, my dogs, Animoshag. I will see you again. Yes, Indian. Anishinaabe. If the Fishbellies hear me speak my words, they beat me with a stick and make me eat soup. Tonight is the night they lift us up, and then we climb into the water tub, 2 or 3 of us if we're real skinny. And we have to wash the back of the one in front. Then we get out, and Fishbelly rubs each of us with a wet towel. This means tomorrow is prayer day. I can tell which Niniji, which friend ran away from the school this week by the long red marks on his back. Ever a lot of red marks. Ever a lot of friends who ran away this week. But Fishbelly teacher has Fishbelly friends who go out and catch them. We have a secret path, but maybe it's not so secret anymore. The Fishbellies are good at catching Indian children. One day I will run. One day they won't hurt me anymore. Crow. The 3 boys didn't plan to run away from the school on that October afternoon, but the sun was warm enough that they took off their windbreakers and tied them around their waists. And it was the older of the 2 brothers who said to his younger sibling and to Charlie that they should go visit an uncle who would take them out on the trap lines so that the school people they called Fishbellies would never find them again. A dozen children had run away from the school that week, but all had been captured and returned and beaten. The 3 boys made that impulsive decision on that Indian summer afternoon, as boys are wont to do. They climbed the fence when they knew no teacher would be looking and disappeared like thin ghosts into the thick forest of spruce and poplar and willow. The 2 brothers covered ground quickly, walking fast then slipping into a run, pushing each other the way brothers do who have nothing else but each other to. They didn't get upset when they had to stop and wait for pigeon-toed Charlie, placing thin red willow shoots onto their mouths and chewing on them, squatting on their haunches and staring wordlessly at the forest ahead, their eyes carving the path they would soon take. Near the secret path that the children used to sneak away from the town without being seen, Charlie found a discarded railroad schedule with a route map in it. He hoped this might serve as a guide to his home and carefully folded it and put it in his thin jacket's pocket. Charlie had a lung infection. Tuberculosis and similar diseases had taken thousands of Indian children's lives the last years in the strange schools, always built with a cemetery beside them to bury those attendants knew would not make it to the final grade. Charlie had once shown the 2 brothers the long red scar that began at his collarbone, then arced down and split his chest before curving off into his back. He had been opened up by a white doctor's scalpel as a child, but when the brothers asked him why, he claimed not to know, or even exactly remember how old he was when the scar was made. On this bright October afternoon, the sun beginning to fall and the cold beginning its wind through the black spruce, Charlie coughed and spat phlegm, his breathing a whine. When he caught up to the 2 brothers, no words were exchanged or any judgment or anger as the 2 boys rose from their haunches and bounded off to the growing darkness, Charlie following as best he could. How do we know this, you ask? We watched them. We, those that chose to, took the form of crows and followed them silently and swiftly, swooping by them and then hovering above before diving down to land in the branches of dying trees to stare upon them, our cobalt eyes sparkling to absorb the last of the day's light. Hummingbird. Ever my friends wait for me. They go fast and disappear in the bush, and I have to look careful as I follow for ghosts of footsteps or broken twigs they leave for me, or thin paths through trees that I know in me are the ones they take. I need to stop and sit, and when I do, Ninokazi, a hummingbird, comes near my head and stares at me. So close I hear her tiny wings hum before she flies away. That is a good sign. I know it. Getting dark, I can hear something following. Is it the fish-belly men? My body won't give me enough breath to run like my friends, but I try anyways, and every time I catch up, they stand from squatting and spit the twigs from their mouths and disappear again. But now dark is almost here, and I hear the fish-belly teacher word, don't. I catch my friends finally, and inside my chest burns, and I spit some red and white spit on the ground, but this time they don't stand and disappear again. I kneel beside my friends, and we huddle for heat, and don't say anything, but glance into each other's eyes, and then just look away quickly. We all say the same thing without saying it out loud. Go back now and get switched, but don't get real cold tonight. Or, get real cold tonight and wait for light, but don't stop running to where we run. None of us wants to go back, even though we now understand how cold the night is going to be. We are going to stay anyways, and inside my chest begins to stop hurting so bad. Don't hurt, chest. The older brother reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out some toilet paper, and the other brother reaches his hand out into his own pocket and pulls out some dry grass. I reach into my pockets and feel the map. I will need this. I feel bad when my hands come out empty to say I have nothing. The older brother reaches into his other pocket and pulls out what looks like a little stick and holds it in front of him, showing it to us in the shadows like it is something we need to pray to. I lean closer. It's a match, but even in this little bit of light, I see that the blue head of it misses its red tip. The two brothers gather dry twigs, and then I watch as they kneel on the ground, their heads almost touching as they work with their hands. The older one takes the match, and they both whisper, and then he picks up small stone and runs the match across the top of it. Nothing. He does it again. Nothing. The third time he does it, I hear the match snap, and then the coo, coo, coo of an owl somewhere not far away. The brothers say, "Gah!" and then laugh quiet and sit down on their bums. I know what owl says when he says, "Coo, coo, coo," but I don't want to tell my friends and scare them. Instead, I tell them I saw a hummingbird, and it's a good sign for us. But the younger brother says, no, it's not, because they were all supposed to leave at the end of summer, and if one is still here, it will die of the cold. The brothers get up, and we walk to the big black spruce and snap its lowest bottom bits off, and make a bed for us under its green smell of it. That smell makes me want my home, and my Ninade and my sisters and dogs. The brothers whisper, and one hums a bit of a radio song. And then I listen, my eyes open and staring up through the branches of Gawandag, of spruce, as both begin to breathe like waves coming into the beach and with their breath of sleep. So dark now under the night, and clouds that hide stars, and moon that I can only hear the mouse chewing on the toilet paper and dry grass and dried twigs from our fire. Of the fire that couldn't live. I'm cold. Cold. Ningik a ninji ikaj, I whisper as I flutter like a hummingbird to fall asleep. I wake from hard shakes and the darkness, feel like I am all by myself until the clouds pass. And the light of Gizi's moon, I think I see an owl above watching me, and when I turn my head slow, I see the brothers curled together. Slow as I can move closer to them, and slow I curl as close to them as I am able, and soon we are three curved sticks floating on the back of a great and rough and freezing river that carries us and swallows us and carries us again towards the sun morning. Owl. When darkness comes, some of us who follow the three boys descend from bare tree limbs to become mice. Those of us who choose this form sniff and gnaw the twigs and paper the children have left as offering. We sit on our haunches and we hold this detritus in our tiny paws and watch the twinkling black eyes, the three brown children, buffet along the swollen rivers of sleep, their bodies clutching each other for warmth. Those of us in the trees above who choose to stay perched instead shift into owls, twisting our heads and blinking our slow yellow eyes to refract the moon and stars' light to sight. We twist our heads to one another and call out, coo, coo, coo. whisper to the children below, then swoop on silent wings with talons spread to pierce the mice and carry them squirming above. We perch on limbs and look down at the shivering children as we swallow the mice whole, their tails twitching on our beaks as we watch the one called Charlie awake and look up at us before crawling closer to the two brothers searching for warmth. Charlie. His real name is Cheney, but the ones who forced him to that school can't pronounce or don't care to listen, so say it with sharp tongues instead. If we could feel pity for this one, we would. His walk before, his walk to come. Neither is easy. All he wants is home. We follow now, we follow always, not to lead but to capture. Someone, yes, will capture this boy's life. As the coldest part of North October night sets in, we who are owls gag and retch. We've absorbed the essence of our captive mice and now cough up their bones and fur. We spit what we can't keep down to the boys below. Not in contempt, but in honor. Nothing, 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 should go to waste. Just look at what these three boys do. They've left the hissing radiator's warmth, a dormitory bed, night floorboards creaking under the weight of those charged with their protection. These boys and the dozen children the week before them have all run away for a reason, but these three will go further than the others. They are driven. We stare down upon what they can and must live through. They shake in half sleep despite holding on to a friend or a brother. When they awake, though, they will feel the shame of having touched one another, even just for warmth. This lesson not taught by their own, but by others, will be by morning dissipate with the early frost. Alas, we get ahead of ourselves. The school these three were dragged to will continue to call them like distant shouts from the poplar. And these three, Cheney especially, will try to concentrate on the choked breath in his ears as he runs, the whine in his lungs, his inside chest burning. We who choose to be owls watch all of this, blink our yellow eyes slow, and cough down pellets to the three boys below. The fur and bones won't keep them warm. But the one truth we know in the slow blink of our yellow eyes, these children we reflect in our retinas will awake at least one more morning. They will wake staring into the black center of our eye and will rub their own and make sunspots, the yellow orb of light growing rounder to pull them from the ground to go. Mouse skull. I wake up me to the older brother staring down. The sun rises behind him so that light shoots from his body. My arms are wrapped around his brother with his back to me, and we are curled like dogs. I watch as the older brother shakes his head in a big no. He kicks the younger one hard, who cries awake. I suddenly feel guilty. The older brother turns and walks to the path and squats on it, looking away. The one beside me jumps up and says, "Ever stupid, you!" Then he kicks me too. I crawl up on my knees and then push my hands on the ground to stand up straight. My knees feel like what old men walking look like, and my side is hot from the tip of the boy's shoe. The younger one has joined the older, and both now squat and chew on sticks and stare down the path they will take. I want to walk to them and be friends again. I don't know what I did, me. The air between us is cold and heavy and sparkles with sun morning, Yeezys. I walk in a small circle with my eyes to the ground, and I let the circle get bigger. This will warm me and let me get closer to them too. Under last night's tree, our green bed still holds the shape of our bodies. I stop my circle and look up at the trees, losing its leaves at that Coco stared down from. My eyes go to the ground, and I see now what he left. I pick it up in my hands and run a finger along the hard and soft of it, this cough up shaped like an egg. And this thought makes my belly rumble. My fingers pick through it, pull it apart. The fur and the little bones of Wawa Big on Onuji mouse. Wawa Big Onuji, ever big name for such a small one. At the center of the ball of fur and bones, my fingers stop picking. Careful as I can, I remove the bits of fur that still stick, and then my fingers pass to my palm a perfect mouse skull. I hold it up to the sun morning, and through the glowing eye hole I see a shining black pebble. Tiny and sparkling. I bring the skull closer and smile at my find. A tiny black stone stuck where Mouse's eye used to be. This is beautiful. I will give it to the brothers to say sorry for what I didn't know I did. But when I turn to walk to them, I see that they are gone. I am hot again. When I reach the brothers squatting and chewing sticks, the mouse skull safe in my jacket pocket with the map. This is all I have, but it will be enough for now. My chest inside burns. I spit some bread on the ground as I lean on my knees and try and breathe good. The brothers don't look at me as they rise to run. I don't feel bad. I can feel they are no longer mad at me for what I don't know I did. I think they don't know too. I will give them this gift when we stop and rest proper. I will give them the most perfect thing I've ever found because they wait for me and they care. The forest begins to open up as the sun looks down from the strait above. I can tell me we are getting near a big river or maybe a lake. The ground leaning to it now just a little bit. I've been good at knowing which way the brothers run. I'm not so scared anymore in the sunlight. Not so scary in the daylight. Gi, zai, gad. Gizi, gad. I can tell which way they run because they go the way easiest to make. Sometimes there's more than one choice, but if I look close, they leave me messages of broken bit of willow chewed up so the red skin of it shows the white meat underneath. When I find them, I pick them up and I put them in my pocket. So I have something to prove to my friends I knew they were close. That I am here too, every little bit when I need to rest. I reach carefully in my jacket pocket and take the gift even more careful in my fingers and peek at it just for a second. The light of Gizi's touches the black pebble eye and Wawa Big Anuji Mouse winks at me. Today is okay. Today there will be no school. The trees are bigger here. The ground leans harder. I am closer now to water. I can no longer run me, but walk fast instead and let the slow hill carry my body. Thirsty. Water soon. The fish belly who teaches us doesn't let us drink any water when we answer words wrong. He doesn't let us eat either. I'm used to hungry me, but I can't get used to no water. I can hear a river now, and soon sees its bright black back twinkle at me through the Azadi poplar as Gizi's sun touches it to say, Ani, hello. Pike. We flick our amber tails and torpedo through the tannin-stained rivers, gills breathing water as we gather into flashing schools before. In ones or twos, we depart our company to swim alone. One of us takes the form of northern pike, yellow eyes with sparkling retinas, searching for sustenance and finding a young pickerel hiding behind a shoal on the riverbed. Short chase before the lunge, needle teeth clamping, this fish small enough to be gulped in 2 torn swallows. Rising into the shining surface now and exposing back and dorsal fin to the air, we laze in the last of the season's warm sunlight, wide mouth open and drawing water along scalpel teeth, gills flushing it out in a heartbeat rhythm. Our yellow eyes stare into the dry world above, poplar and black spruce shimmering on the bank. The weather will change. It will change by this time tomorrow, carrying the first winter on its spine. We see the one named Cheney emerge from the trees and limp pigeon-toed towards us, breathing hard. We move closer with a swish of tail so that we may watch him fall to his knees by the river's edge, his face above a shiver in his dry world. His hands enter the water pale palms first. Then he merges down his whole head into our wet domain. Eyes closed as he gulps and gulps, lifting his head back out to breathe before sinking it back in to drink some more. Poor boy is so thirsty he forgets his father's lesson to never drink this way, but to drink with cupped hands instead. We laugh at Cheney's forgetfulness, and that's when he opens his eyes underwater to stare into ours, catching a glimpse of us peering at him amused. He startles and pushes himself back up and onto shore, and so we flick our tail once more and cut along the bank, hugging it for distance to where we know the uncle of the 2 brothers has built his weir. We will offer them a small gift today, because we see their hunger, especially the smallest boys. We enter the weir rocks that merge into a V, the channel we travel narrowing to the uncle and his long stick and snare. Our head entering the circle of wire as he deftly yanks the long stick with his strong wrist flick, the wire tightening across our throat as he lifts the pole above him, with us flopping in the noose to its end. The uncle carries us writhing in our stranglehold up the bank to his small cabin. He wishes we were bigger, for his 2 nephews have appeared ghost-like from the trees, which means 2 more mouths to feed. But alas, we are just a young pike. He will use every bit of us, though, his wife especially, who will boil even our head and sharp ribs down into a stalk. Uncle sees when he reaches his camp a 3rd young one now, a strange boy with wet black hair plastered to his forehead, and wonders how many more children the forest will birth. Another mouth to feed when his autumn hunt has been so unsuccessful is one mouth too many. He worries us from our noose and lays us belly down upon his plywood table, takes his thin and sharp fillet knife, and pinning our head with one hand, slices with a long draw of wicked sharpness across that place where skull meets spine. We shiver convulsions when he severs us from life and wriggle free from that coil, just as the uncle whispers miigwech and opens the pike's mouth to place a small tuft of tobacco upon his tongue. Invisible on the wind now, we rise up to the poplars and tussle the dying leaves, rattling them in an honor song to one more day of life for those who gather around the blood and scalpel and scale-dappled table to watch this man prepare their meal. Spider. I see it's the same fish, me. It's the same Gigu. His eyes cloudy now on the table, and he doesn't look so big. But that's him. I saw him with my head under the water. I went in his world and saw him. The Nishimui of my friends. He presses the fish's neck with his knife, and me and them, we step closer to watch. Nishimui cuts the back of Gigu so it can stop moving around on the table, and then he takes some cigarette from his pocket and sticks it in Gigu's mouth. I swear me, that's when the Nishumi does that. The fish sticks his tongue out at me and whispers, "Gah!" And then its open ear on the side closes for the last time, and the wind in the adazi's trees starts to hum and moan. A girl and her nimama come out from the little cabin behind us and stare at me until I look back at them, and they turn their eyes to my two friends. Lots of people here, ever lots, too many for such a small fish. My two friends, their uncle, Nishumi, and this girl and her nimama. How many is that? I count them on each finger with my other hand in a whisper mouth. Bizig, Nish, Nishiwi, Niwin, Nanan. When I'm done, I see the Nishumi looks at me before he moves his eyes back to his shining knife. I turn red. I look back at my hand, at my fingers, and see none are left for me. What is my word for none? I bend each finger to meet my palm, and when I'm done counting again, I know this family has no skin for me. My friends push closer when their Nishumi slices the shiny sides away from Gigu, and then his top too, and lays the meat on the table. Then Nishumi turns him over to remove his insides. The long white stomach and bright heart and brown guts spill, and I watch the shining knife split open the white, and out flops two parts of a smaller Gigu fish the bigger one had eaten. The Nimama comes up and then with her bowl and scoops all the insides and then turns and walks, her daughter following into the dark mouth of their home. In their cabin I watch Nishumi and his wife make sure we young ones have some Gigu and a bit of fried potato and hot fish water in our cups. A lantern hangs above the table, and I think them the only one who sees Asa Bakshi spider weaving in the corner of the cabin, the lantern making her web sparkle, a small bug like a dried leaf caught in it. The two who aren't children don't eat, so we can, and I am so hungry. When I am done, I wish I could eat my plate. Nishumi scrapes what is left from the pot onto his wife's plate, and she pushes it back across the table to him, and he pushes it back to her. I take the rest of the fish water in my mouth and go from the table so I can lie by the fire in the wood stove and watch these people be a family. The girl who is so quiet watches me and doesn't take her eyes away when I look at them. Ever good looking her. My eyes can't stay on her, she's so pretty. She sticks her tongue out at me and I smile. She's lucky the fish belly ones who found me haven't found her yet to take her away to school. Nishumi tells his nephews their story instead of eating. He puffs on a pipe so the smoke makes his face go soft, and he tells them the story about how their Ninidi and how their Ninmama both died near the train tracks. He doesn't tell them the story to make them sad, but to let them know that they aren't alone. I didn't know till now that the brothers have no parents. All they have is this man, their uncle, and this woman, their auntie, and this girl, their cousin. Nishumi tells the boys the story of their parents, the boys listening at the table with their mouths open, so they will know they still have family. I move closer to the stove because the floor is cold tonight. My Ninidi and my Nimama and my sisters live near the train tracks. I will walk to them so we can be a family again. I reach in the pocket of my jacket and I listen to the uncle talk and watch the Asa Baikshi spider sitting like a grandmother in her web, listening also to the stories that the uncle tells. and I feel for the map in my pocket and run my fingers over the skull of the mouse. My eyes are tired from the smoke, but I am warm and not so hungry, and listening to the hum of the uncle's words makes me feel as good almost as if I am home. Nishumi talks and smiles as he watches his wife eat until she is full, but then his soft look turns hard when we hear something outside. Each of us quiets to listen. Feet coming to the door, and then the door crying open. I see the same fish-belly man who came to take me away from my family standing big in the door, his boots like black mirror and his gun tied to his side. His mouth opens to take the pretty young girl away, and I reach to stop him and wake to the dark cabin now, except for the hot light that creeps out of the stove, and someone has put a blanket over me, and I am finally warm. I'm warm. The fish-belly man is only a bad dream, and I listen to the wood crack in the stove beside me, and I feel like this is safe. The fish-belly man is not coming for us. He has lost our path, and he won't find us because we are better in the woods than him. I reach my pocket and take out the map, and in the jumping light of burning wood in the stove, I unfold it and look at the lines that run across my paper and try to guess which way I will go. I can't see her, but I know that Grandmother Spider watches me careful from the world she made from her body, wondering too which way tomorrow I will go. Wood tick. We weave our web in the corner of the trapper's cabin and watch as young Chaney falls asleep by the wood stove. He is as close to content as he has felt since his last night at home 2 years ago, the night before being taken by the pale strangers. He falls asleep, not with a full belly by anyone's measure, but at least no one that feels gnawed from within. We take no pleasure when we share that this is young Chaney's last warm night. Chaney awakes to the uncle stirring in the fire in the stove to life again. It is still dark, but uncle is up and preparing a journey. We watch from our web with so many glittering eyes as young Chaney stands from his sleeping place on the floor and tries to be helpful, but doesn't know what to do. The only thing the school he's run away from has taught him is how to be fearful of adults. I saw the gigoo we ate last night before you caught him, Chaney says to the uncle. I saw him underwater when I put my head in to drink. The uncle doesn't understand this young boy. He understands the words, the Ojibwe weaving through the stubborn English. He fears the boy carries the burden that will kill him, and the uncle doesn't want this curse passed on to his family. The uncle brews bitter tamarack tea, for it is all they have to drink this morning. When the scent awakens his wife, she comes to him and he whispers in her ear, I will take our nephews today up to the lake to the trap line. We will go a week. You stay here with our daughter, eat from the last stores of food. The aunt shakes her head. Don't worry, the uncle explains. We will come back with something to eat. We have no other choice. It is not food, the aunt says. She looks at the boy who sits by the stove and stares into it at the shimmering light, the light out the window beginning to come. Your job is to send the stranger away, the uncle says. Someone broke something in him. We don't have the tools to fix it. Send him back to the school or find out where he lives and send him there. Give him a little food for the journey. The uncle rouses his two nephews and they climb from their shared bed, rubbing eyes and standing. They pull on their thin jackets and when they see uncle head to the door. Chaney stands too and finds his own jacket. When he joins them, the door opens now. The uncle turns. 4 will be too dangerous in my canoe. We head north of the lake and I can see the weather's changing. He walks away, the 2 boys following. None of the 3 look back at Chaney. It isn't their way. The young girl lies in her bed and stares at this strange boy. She can see something in him, she thinks. Someone hurt him bad. Ever bad they hurt him. So bad that it's stuck inside him and he is so scared of it, but more scared to let it out. She watches as the boy sits down by the fire, and she thinks she sees his shoulders quiver. She watches as he reaches in his pocket and takes something small out and studies it before placing it back in. And then he pulls out a piece of paper and traces his finger along the lines sketched on it. He folds the paper and puts it back in his pocket and stands. He sees she stares at him, but she won't move her eyes. She dares him with her dark eyes to tell him why he hurts. I'm going outside to play alone, the boy says, then walks to the door. Quick as we can, we secret a single silver strand of gossamer from our abdomen, spinnerets, crocheting to drop us down from our web and onto the shoulder of the boy as he passes through the door. We ride him to the edge of the woods to a bed of dried leaves where he drops to his knees and begins to cry so hard his shoulders shake us from him. He buries his face into the leaves so that the girl and her mother won't hear. The wails, slow to sobs, slow to hiccups, as we shiver the last of the leaves above him, separate leaf from branch, and drift down to him as small offering that we can watch. And so that he can't shake us from him again, some of us turn into a wood tick and crawl up from his bed of leaves and latch ourselves to his calf. When all the tears have left his body, Cheney walks with something as close to certainty as he knows. He has made a decision. He will follow his friends and their uncle by land to the camp and make himself useful so that the uncle will like him. And when Cheney's chest has healed some and he has earned some food to take, he will then begin the long walk down the tracks to home. Inside the cabin, he tells the mother and her daughter that he is ready to begin his journey home. Although this isn't a lie per se, Cheney knows to leave out that first he will find his friends and their uncle. But still, this makes him feel wrong. The girl's mother explains that the path he needs to take to the railroad tracks and where the path divides, and how he must turn with the river rather than follow the lake to where her husband's trapping cabin sits. Cheney nods, and the mother wraps a few pieces of dried moose meat in wax paper and places it in his pocket. Remember, she says, when you get to the tracks, you must go this way back to the school. She takes his right arm and holds it out from his side. If you go the other way, she says, you will have too much bush to walk. She drops his arm. Which way do you go back to the tracks? Go at the tracks, she asks. Cheney lifts his right arm from his side. He looks to the mother and then to the girl. He walks to the door. The girl reaches him before he leaves and slips into his palm a small screw-top glass jar that holds 7 matches. These will keep you warm at night, she says. Cheney puts the jar into his pocket, his fingers brushing the little mouse skull. He takes it out and places it on his palm and presents it to the girl. This is the most beautiful thing I own, he says. She stares at it. Wawa Beganuji. Take it, Cheney says. She holds it up to the sun in the door and smiles when the black eyes of it winks at her. He travels most of the day as we gorge just a little on the blood, with our tiny fangs pierced, and when he reaches the place where the path divides, he steels himself and hurries along the lake as best he can, reaching the uncle's cabin by mid-afternoon. But no one is there. Cheney sits on the steps and waits, staring out at the lake, an east wind rippling it. The wind cold, weather will change and it won't be good. Cheney takes out the jar of matches and I can see his reflection just a little in the glass. He daydreams what it would be like to see the girl's reflection in it too. He curls up in the last bit of sun on the shallow, rough porch, dark clouds skittering. He doesn't know he's been sleeping until the footsteps awake him. The uncle stares down at him, a look of surprise on his face. The look turns blank again, and Cheney peers through the man's legs to see his 2 friends squatting a short distance away. They watch, red willow sticks in their mouths. You can't stay here, the uncle says. You must return to the school. Look, the bad weather approaches and I have no room for you. Stand now and begin your walk back. Cheney stands as he's told. When you take the path that will get you to the tracks, the uncle says, you turn this way to your school. He lifts Cheney's right arm from his side. Don't forget, if you travel quick, you will beat most of the weather. And if you see them, the workers on the track, you ask them for a bit of food. The uncle walks into the cabin and the 2 friends stand from their crouch to follow. When they pass Cheney, each reaches out a hand to brush his left arm. Beaver. Push out of the forest to where the straight and shining lines they build cut through my world. I stare me at these tracks. It's that time now when day wants to become night, but wants to stay light too. I can see the sun smiling as it leaves through the white legs of Azadi poplar and the furry arms of Gawanadeg spruce. Sun winks at me from the way I'm not supposed to follow the tracks. From my other arm that would lead me back to the school, the sky has turned the color of a fire after it's dead. Ash snow and it's cold is coming from that way, and maybe it's sent to me from the teachers at the school, from the men the color of a fish belly who hunt me to take me back. They won't find me. I won't let them. I won't go back to that place. I walk up on the little rock hill that holds the long straight lines, ever long when I look each way, ever long. The wind blows cold from my arm where the school lives when I turn that way. It makes me hold my skinny jacket closer. When I look the way my Nenede and my Nemama and my 2 Nimisayag live, where they wait for me. I watch the last sun set the 2 steel lines on fire. I think of my Nenede, of what he would say, eat, Don't make decisions with no food in your belly. Think of your new mama and what she wants for you. The strips of mousse soften with spit. I don't want to, but I swallow all the mousse down to make my belly feel better. Shiny paper that held it fits in my pocket. I will keep it. I will find its use. The wind gets hotter and cold up here on the tracks outside the trees. Which way? Ninides smile when I walk through our door. My two Animoshag barking and jumping at me with wet tongues. My two Nimishag laughing till we cry. Whispering to my Nimama that I am home now, and she cries till she laughs. Follow the sun. There is no choice. I must walk till the sun comes back to push me from behind again. My two friends touched my other arm for a reason. They said to me loud as they could not to go back to where we ran from. The map asked me to look at it to make sure, and so I do. The wind shakes it and it almost sounds like the map wants to talk to me. I think I have it turned the right way. I've watched older people study maps and I do what I remember them doing, running my finger along what must have been the railroad tracks to where I must live, because it is away from the school. Then taking my chin in my hand and staring some more, tapping my finger to my lips to see if this will help the map speak to me. The sun is leaving and I try to catch what I can of it, jumping from wood to wood between the iron lines. But one is too short and two is too long, and so I try and walk beside the track on the rocks, but this is worse. Me, I would rather the wood, and so I go back to it and I step short and quick. Dark will come fast now, and so I look for places to sleep as I leap from wood to wood, the smell of it making me dream of hot summer and playing with my two Nimisag near the tracks and the big shining water where we live. I will get home. I will. But the wind blows hard and cold at my back, and I'm tired, and I'm dreaming more than walking from the wood to wood, and my foot doesn't pay attention, and it doesn't make the step it needs to, so it catches wood instead, and I can't stop from falling. My forehead cracking on the track. Bright light like staring into the sun, and little wait till hurt explodes, and I touch my head and my hand is red. Don't move. Just wait. Wait. The pain will go. My nose to tar wood and my eyes to crushed rocks. Just wait. When I can push up and sit again, the wind howls with laughing. Dizzy, me, walking now. It's time to find a place in the trees, and I use a match for a fire. Up ahead, and then down the small hill of the tracks, I see where a Mick lives. A beaver pond, and beside it a stretch of trees that will help stop the wind. I know this will be a good spot. Fallen trees to hide in. Close to the pond, a Mick slaps its fat tail to let the others know I've come. Another answers with a slap, and the sound of water echoes. My father's Ninide, my Nimishomos, when he trapped Amek in his snare, used to throw the tail on the fire until it bubbled and turned real black, and then he peeled away the skin and ate the whole thing. He was the strongest man in the world, my Ninide says, because this is what he ate. Oh, if only a Mick would give me his tail. Crackling of dry twigs and handful of moss and the scrape of one match on rock, and a little fire comes alive. I found a place, me, under Gawanagdag spruce, and I think it might be all right for tonight. Fingers on my forehead. The bump is ever big, but it's mostly stopped bleeding. I taste the bit of blood because there's nothing else to eat. I pile sticks onto the fire and close my eyes. So tired, but cold and hungry won't let me sleep too easy. Count backward from that number 5. Nanan, Niwin, Nizwa, Niza, Bizig. Then I do it again. Nanan, Ninwin, Nizwa, Nizha, Bizwig. Then I do it again. Nanan, Niwin, Niswa, Niza, Bizig. The slap of Amek tail is the slap of the teacher across my face. The other children stare at me. I spoke out loud in the class in my tongue because I forgot what Nanedi warned me. Ni mama dan, I say, but it comes out with my tongue, not his. I mean to say I am sorry, I say, and he slaps me again, so I fall out of my chair. I meant to say it in English, I try and tell him, but my tongue came out instead. I am sorry, I say from the floor. He thinks I make fun, and he grips my hair in his fist and drags me out of the room, down some stairs and down to the dark basement that scares us all to dying. He takes the key from the metal ring on his waist and opens the door and pushes me in. I wait for him to close the door. Tiny light and a skinny mattress on the floor covered in yellow stains. Take off your clothes. I shake. He walks to me and his hand meets my face, so I taste red. I remove my shirt. He waits. I remove my shoes. He waits. I remove my pantses. He waits, then he picks them up and takes them away and locks the door. Nothing I can do in the cold dark but shiver. Try not to cry. Please don't cry. Please. Daga, afraid. Ningotaj, cold. Ningataji, I sleep. The door cries and I wake. Dark, but he is a tall shadow staring down at me. He lies down beside me on the skinny mattress that smells of old pea, and he takes me in his arms and holds me. His skin is hot. His skin glows like a fish belly in the dark. Ozihawa, he pushes himself against me. He smells like the color called brown. He pushes me on my stomach. His mouth, Nadun, on my back. Nipikawan, hurt. He hurts. Don't hurt me. Please don't hurt. Snow Goose. The boy Cheney shakes as the first sleet begins to fall that eve. He sleeps fitfully, and in his dream the sleet that soaks him is the sweat of the teacher pounding above. His pathetic fire douses, and fat and full, we who have become a wood tick extract tiny fangs from his calf and take our time crawling out from the worn pants of the boy. He will awake soon and will experience the most miserable night of his young existence. Near frozen to death by a beaver pond, a small flock of snow geese come down from the skies to take watery respite from those that would hunt and eat them. Their stark white-feathered bodies huddled in the black center of the pond. The beavers work through the darkest hours and pay no mind to the strange, shivering human nearby. They know what waits him, and there is nothing for them to do but ply the nights till dawn, to chew through poplar and balm and birch, to stunt their teeth, to keep those teeth from growing so fast and long that the bottom ones will curve and eventually pierce the top of the skull if beaver were ever to turn lazy. They listen for breaks in the dam, the sound of flowing water as much an enemy as the prowling timber wolf nearby. The beaver family tenses to waddle as one back into their pond safely when they hear the waking gasp of the boy, a cry of pain and of fear, and for the first time the ball of understanding of what mortality means. There is nothing for us to do now but watch the boy push himself up and into a crouch, thin arms wrapped about his torso as sleet turns to snow, then back to sleet again. His body temperature in the darkest hour of night drops close to what a human can withstand before his system beckons coma to keep the sluggish blood pumping. Extremities of the brown-skinned boy a sickly yellow-white. We wait and witness the boy quake as the body quakes. The tremors, the quakes again. Blood pressure drops with temperature and our dark eyes refract no light. But as morning must, this one returns, not with the sun, but with a simper. We watch as Cheney forces himself into a stand and stumbles away from the beaver pond and onto the tracks to continue his slow walk. The sleet has stopped, but the sky hangs thick with dark cloud, and a north wind is just beginning to sing in earnest. Cheney is right in remembering his family lives near the railroad tracks by big shining water, but what he does not fully understand is that home is hundreds of miles away. Those of us who chose to become snow geese now rouse ourselves with our discordant song and petal-webbed feet to shore, scouring for a bit of sustenance to help us on our flight south. One of us pecks near where Cheney stops, roots out bits of green in the brown eyes, and pursues the engorged wood tick that tries to burrow under the leaves, then swallows him with a satisfied click of beak before digging deeper for more. Lead goose in pond lifts and ruffles wings. Time to fly to beat more coming weather, and so she pushes hard with webbed feet and commands wings to pound the air. Neck pointed straight in the direction she must go until she begins her lift. Webbed feet now running across water as wings work harder, and she catches a small drift that lifts her up above the spruce and poplar and Precambrian spine as ancient as the world, the others following, none wanting to be left behind, until we form a V in the air and allow the long white light feathers to do their work. We peer down at the boy, a dark speck on the tracks below, honking out a greeting to him, letting him know we see him, that we witness his lonely walk now a torture. As we follow the tracks that cut through the rock and muskeg and bush, we talk back and forth among ourselves about how far we think the boy can go before his body fails. Not far. Our shining eyes catch the day's low light, and we can see how these tracks we follow from above stretch impossibly across the harsh earth. From all the chance he has, we might as well try to fly to the near moon that plans to appear, if only briefly, tonight. We honk a few more greetings and garbled words of encouragement to the boy before veering away from the tracks and south to where we, at least those of us who survive the journey, will find a bit of warmth. There won't be any more warmth for young Cheney until he meets the last of us late tonight. Rabbit. I can see more bad weather coming. Walking has made me a bit warmer, but my clothes are wet. Nanidi would tell me to get them dry now and build a shelter till I can feel a bit stronger again. But everything is so wet. Gawain, no. My map. I reach into my pocket and I can feel it tear when I touch it. Gentle. Stop. Take shaking hand and I try to take map out proper. It tears, I shake so hard. It's ruined. Gawain. Ever stupid me. Ever stupid. Why didn't I roll it up in the small glass jar with the matches? I reach my hand in my pocket and squish the map with my fist. Water between fingers. I take it out and I open my fist. I stare. This is their map. This is not mine. My map is the wood and the 2 lines, and my map is walking till I'm home. I don't need their stupid map. I throw it like a ball, and the wind from Guinea-Dog takes it to the north. And like I asked it to happen, snow starts coming down. Build a fire now, I hear Nanidi say. A dead tree down the small hill. Breaking of twigs, but no dry moss. And then I remember that paper that wrapped the meat of the moose. It feels dry. Water drips off it when I take it from my pockets. I squeeze the paper in a ball and I lean over it and take out the match jar and then a match. And I light it on my zipper and my lean stops the snow from falling on it. Touch map to paper, but paper doesn't want to. Just turns green for a bit, then smoky. Second match. Second light. Paper's ugly. It won't take fire into it. 4 matches left. Then 3. Stop. Save them. Walk to get warm. I can feel me getting slow. I must get up. So cold, and yet my body doesn't want to move. Move. Then I see it staring at me just a few feet away. It has been staring at me for how long? Waboos. Big ears up and brown fur already beginning to turn its winter white. Long feet ready to jump it away. We look at eyes for a while. I never knew this feeling before. Waboos the rabbit isn't scared of me. Waboos looks sad. The snow falls in little hisses in the trees, and we look at each other and there's no more fear. Waboos finally turns and jumps slowly away. On the tracks I fall 1 time. Bizhig. 2 times. Nize. 3. Nizwi. I don't feel the hurting anymore. The snow stops and starts and stops. The day becomes afternoon, becomes darker, becomes dark. I slow walk, ever slow. 1 wood, 2 woods, 3. I fall again and I try so hard to push back up. My hands shake as I step into night. Nanidi and me, we once checked our snare to find Waboos so new in it that his long hands and feet still shaking like mine do now. I try to imagine being him, wearing his brown fur turning white. I shake. Above me the clouds tear open to the moon. It's almost full. I can't stop now or I won't get up. My feet work slow and I look at moon when I can. Everything's so heavy, shaky, slow. Feet, work. Feet, please work. Feet. Nindizan. Nindizan drag and the sky spins and moon smiles at me and I'm falling. Oh, hurt. On my back. My front, my back, my front, my back. Beside the tracks. Moon above me smiles. Hands and feet shake. White breath, so cold, ever cold. Nanidi taught me how to find north. I hear him say it. Gimik, Wenden ina. Cheney, do you remember? I do. Nanidi. That star. Anag. They're watching me from the edge of the bush. I can tell. They have been following me since the school went away from me from it. What's the word for them? What follows me, Nanide? Manitos. No English word for that. Where are you going, Cheney? Nanidi asks. He looks so sad. Anadi as a hayan. Where are you going? I am going to go. Me. Giwi. Home. My hands shake and my feet shake, and there is no more getting up. I am Waboos in his snare. I shake. Think your words. speak your words. Head, Nishingawan. Cold, Gizna. Warm, Ninizhuz. No, Gawan. Yes, Aya. Nose, Inajaz. I, Nishkazhig. Father, Ninidi. Heart, Ninid. Father, Ninidi. Heart, Ninid. Father, Ninidi. Heart, Ninid. Father, heart, Ninidi. Ninidi, Nin. Lynx. We followed Cheney all day on our great slippered feet of fur, stopping once to pounce on the slowest snow goose as the small flock lands for afternoon rest, and again for a quick chase of snowshoe hare, dazed by what it saw in the young boy's eyes. Today is not a difficult one, if only in the sense that we don't feel challenged by what we stalk. Boy's step is so slow it makes us lazy, our pursuit of prey one of boredom more so than one of need. As dusk becomes night, Cheney's shaking and stumbling has weakened by cold and hunger. We pay special attention. The time for us to act is near. He summons the hare to let us know that soon he will be ready for the lynx's embrace. Rabbit is our favorite sustenance, after all, and when he stumbles and falls along the slick steel of tracks, the near full moon splitting open the clouds above, we watch with yellow eyes. Retinas glittering in that orb's light, young Cheney rolling down the embankment of rocks, and then stare up at our brethren that inhabit the sky. We watch his breath slow, white in the darkness as he speaks his words. Those words born alive, tangible in his frozen puffs, hot moisture of breath meeting the freeze become signals to the world that Cheney is still here. And then with a shiver, a kick, he's gone. We must move quick, for great actor Brother Moon begins his final call before night's curtain is drawn. The clouds who will soon envelop him beginning their spheres. Wary, we leave the cover of trees and the perch from where we watch. We who choose so become the mother, this greatest of the lynx, her shadow so large in the waning moonlight that even the best two-legged hunter, grown strong on Beaver's rich tail, would shake in fear if he were to witness her slink towards the boy. The little warmth left in the child's crystallizes on his lips, and our twitching nose lowers to breathe in the scent. Long and rough tongue licks his whitening cheek, his ears, his forehead, his eyes. And now, as cloud curtains shut on this lonely performance, moon bowing to the darkness, a snowstorm squalls through the cut rocks of tracks, covering a country shield where Cheney lies, great lynx protective above him. We watch as the lynx, through a thickening screen of snow, stands up on her hind legs to look down upon the child. She reaches her long arms to take him in her paws, and then lifts him up and into her embrace. As the snow falls thicker, she wraps him more tightly to her so that he may feel again. And with the first true snow of the season falling now, whipped by the wind through the canyon cut out of the rock, the mother lynx waltzes Cheney warm in her fur-clad arms and into the forest away from the tracks. We watch patient as the day breaks clear and cold, snow melting when sun rises higher, so that by early afternoon, when the thundering chug of an approaching train sounds, Cheney's still body is exposed. The engineer slows as much as he is able and stares down upon the frozen Indian boy just feet from the tracks. He radios the sad find in and pushes the engine to speed again. Hours later, a few pale authorities arrive to snap pictures and collect the body. They note in photographs how the boy lies upon his back, his thin clothing soaked, his feet turned inward, not out. They find little in his pockets except a handful of chewed red willow twigs, along with a small screw-top jar containing a few wooden matches. When the little that they can collect is collected, they roll the body into a sheet and begin the trouble of carrying it out. And when it's convenient, which turns out to be weeks later, their notification to the deceased family will be the return of said deceased in a thin casket, remains enclosed, back to his people and to his home. In the forest we dance in the great oval that contracts and expands as breath draws in, draws out. Owl and mouse and wood tick, rabbit and pike and beaver, hummingbird, crow, snow goose and spider, mother lynx and Cheney, we call to the center to honor proper, and we revel in the world we've created around them. Sun rises to test the moon, and moon rises to rest the sun. And still we watch. We watch the boy warm in our presence, watch him dance and eat and share his shy smile, his dark eyes turned darker and sparkling. There is a picture. picture of Cheney. This is based on a true story. Author's note: the real-life Cheney, Charlie Wenjack, was forcibly taken from his parents and sisters from his home in Ogie Post, Northern Ontario, in 1964 when he was 9 years old. He asked his sisters to please look after his two beloved dogs until he returned from Cecilia Jeffrey Indian Residential School over 600 kilometers away in Kenora. None of them knew how long he'd be gone. Cheney came home 2 years later in a casket. Cheney wasn't, by a very long shot, the only child to leave for residential school and never return. Many thousands of children died during their time in these alien institutions, from disease, from abuse, from exposure, or accidents while trying to run away. The true number of children who died under the watch of those responsible for their care will never be known. Proper records were purposefully not kept. The death of those countless innocents remains one of the deepest, most brutal stains on Canada's history. More than 6,000 dead children's names have so far been uncovered, but there are thought to be far, far more, many of them buried in unmarked graves near the residential schools that pocketed our country. From the 1870s until 1996, when the last school closed its doors, more than 150,000 Indigenous children, over 7 generations, were removed from their families in attempted cultural genocide. Cheney, for me, and for a number of others, has become a symbol not just of this tragedy, but of the resilience of our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, which is why I use the word attempted. Our cultures were forced underground for a long time, but they have re-emerged despite the odds, and they are thriving once more. Ian Adams wrote The Lonely Death of Charlie Wenjack for Maclean's not long after Cheney's death in 1966. Up to that point, it was one of the few times that a national publication had exposed this dark national secret, and Cheney Wenjack couldn't have known it, but that sweet boy forced the first public inquiry into residential schools in Canada. At the conclusion of this inquiry, the all-white jury unanimously questioned not just the philosophy, but also the morality behind residential schools, although it would take another 30 years for the last institution's doors to be shut. It will take many more years before the intergenerational trauma left in the wake of this grotesque social experiment begins to abate. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission worked tirelessly for many years to uncover the truth, and now the tougher part, the reconciliation, begins.